The Neterat are one of the three races responsible for creation, cloning and growing on Earth. The other are the Elul, Namos, but here we will deal with the Anunnaki, also known as the Anuna. We Anunnaki, meaning, those who Anu, sent down to Chi, or Gi, which became Geo, in Na 50s, are one of your supreme creators, those who grew you. It is from us that you came. We grew 9 ether beings. We are known by many titles, in many languages, such as, Alam, Malaikat, Angelos, Kachina, Neterat, Umarwe, Thunderbirds, Jinwen, or Shushuki, and there are many others. We have germinated this planet from what you call Mars, seating the planet at 4 points as 4 beings, 1. Neter, 2. Anuna, 3. Elul, 4. Namos, the 4 winds. Our existence goes way back to 76 trillion years ago of your time, if you must try to calculate. We live in and beyond time zone. You cannot comprehend these things as of yet. Our creation, never existing as you think of it, we exist as a crystal essence, birthing light and form from beyond light and form, which was created by the Supreme Being Anu, the Most High, who was appointed by Pa Kulum the All. The Greek name for the sun is Helios, the city in Egypt. The Greeks called it Heliopolis, which was really called Anu or Lunu, even Lunet Mayet or On. In your Bible his city there was called Kalna or Kalno fortress of Anu, Genesis 10:10. Heliopolis was the city of Re or Ra, Roi, and his form is Autumn, one of the 4 great cities. The others being Nua moon thieves, Het Kapata Memphis and Kamenu Hermopolis. So the which becomes talisman of the Sumerian was none other than another name for Ra, or Re, the deity of the sun cycle or solar. Heliopolis is also part Hempolis of Tehudithoth, also called Hermes. Re is the symbol of rebirth and regeneration. This sun was also called Kephra, or Kepri the scarab beetle, at dawn, Atun Re at noon and Amun Re at sunset. And this Re came across the skies in his solar bark Manjet in Egypt and Nibiru in Samaria. It was called the boat of 1,000,000 years. This was the great craft that came from beyond the stars, sometimes it's called the Great Gold Egg. Ra became the Most High, Al-Ali or El or Illa, who is known as simply Allah, Rab and Yahweh, or Hashem and Anu, all of these names called by religious people. However he is one and the same. And became Anu, the Heavenly One. Ra became El Elo. This crystal essence became divided into 2 parts. One was extremely pure and luminous, however. The other appeared to the vision of the intellect to be inferior to the first. The first was called light, the pure green light, the light of the Anunnaki, Seraphim, those agreeable beings. A symbol of manifestation of things. And the second was called fire, the impure amber light, the light of the Anunnaki, Cherubim, those disagreeable beings. A symbol of destruction of things. Yet, the pure holy darkness preceded both. The bliss, and the tranquil. Our arrival to your planet, which was 445,000 years ago, by your time, and we came by way of our mothership called Nibiru, for the purpose of mining for gold to take back to our planet Risk. First, we sent Remardians who built androids called Robocoids, then biological gravitation was added, needed for thinking beings to complete the mission, so they were sent to scout and survey this very planet. The leader amongst the Anunnaki was Ea, meaning he whose house is water, being part seaman or reptilian, son of Anu and it also known as Nudimu. After crashing down in what is called the Persian Gulf today, he established the city and called its name Eridu, meaning home, away from home or house built in the far away. He received the name Enki when he landed, meaning ruler of the earth. Enki's pilot for his sham was Matali, husband of Tara. Tara was also half serpent, of the Nagas race, also called Nagini or Naga. They were a non-violent race of serpents, reptilians, descending from herbivores, who did not eat flesh, who are benevolent toward humans. The ruler of the Naga serpents was called Takshaka. Enki's name was Nudimmud, meaning he who fashions things. Enki built waterworks in the marshlands at the head of the Persian Gulf. Enki was assigned to Earth and he agreed to the assignment. He was chosen for this job because he was a brilliant scientist and engineer. However, all did not go well with Enki. Enki got caught up in the delicacies of the world and stopped transporting the gold. He started to take the gold, shipping it to South America instead of taking it straight on home. Enki started to wear the gold. It should be known that, prior to this point, the Anunnaki did not wear gold. Enki got caught up with these people who were half African and half Chinese, called today Native American, the Hopi and Navajo tribes, and Enki promised these people he would come back in a Sigi, meaning 60 years for the gold he had stored. However, he didn't return because he was sentenced to Nibiru and he was not allowed to come to the planet Earth anymore. Since all did not go well with Enki, the gold had been slowed up and more Anunnaki were sent. They came down in groups of 50s. One of the groups was led by Marduk, meaning header of the deities, son of Enki, and Damkina, meaning faithful wife. Not a sister of Anu, so by law, Enlil became ruler. So Enki believed that Enlil stole his birthright. When all had arrived to Earth, Enlil had meetings with the Anunnaki to break into tribes and spread out to 7 different cities. However, Calcal and Nusku could no longer take the blasphemy of Nudimmud, who named a city after himself Nud, Nod, and welcomed all sorts of outside beings who had come to the planet Earth who wandered in and out. He called them aliens, set up laws and borders with restrictions, creating the first immigration laws. Enki gave many khutbahs, sermons that were supposed to be a morale builder to prepare the Anunnaki for this new frontier. However, Enki did the contrary and many were weak and listened to him. They never did this kind of hard work before, mining was new. Many left families behind on risk, so Enki sounded very impressive, and also because Enlil was not present to speak on behalf of his father's rule. He utilized the migration of Anakites who were the giants in the earth, as well as warriors. Enki made them his Lugals, warlords and head of his own police department. They robbed village after village, confiscating the wealth. This police department even harassed Nusk and Calcal, so the 600 Anunnaki that came now broke up into 2 groups of 300 each, male and females. Those who followed Enki, who was surrendering himself to Hindu deities of pantheos, or pantheism called Leviathan, and surrendering to their customs and traditions, and you had those who followed Enlil. Once Nusk and Calcal could no longer take the things that Enki was doing, they moved on, ship after ship until they found open plains in the Sinai Peninsula. There they landed and proceeded further north to set up 7 cities. They were called Tilmun, Salam, Mu, Umaria, Kodesh, Nippur, the second city, and Ashkelon, Al-Kabulan. The city Nippur was ruled by Enlil. This is where he built the Durga sacred chamber where he kept the tablets of all, and built the Duranki, meaning bond of heaven and earth. A place called Larsa, meaning seeing the red right, was built to keep close relationships between the Anunnaki and the Igigi. The Igigi are the beings that stayed in the skies and manned the craft Nibiru when the Anunnaki came down to earth. The word Igigi means those who stayed in the skies, and the Sumerians translated as those who see and observe. The Igigi remained in constant orbit around the planet Earth, acting as intermediaries between Earth and Nibiru. So now we have 2 separate societies of the Anunnaki on Earth, the planet Earth, the Democratics who have become Nefer, agreeable, and the Republicans who have become Nechnech, disagreeable. The disagreeable also set up 7 cities which were Sippur, Kish, Kutha, Shuruppak, Uruk, Ishin, Eridu of Ur of Chaldea, where the flames of Chaldean demons were. Enlil set up a democracy and a government was set up as their original Rizq was ruled. Enki set up a republic to repopulate the planet Earth. He told the Anunnaki that he would bring their families, so that they can rule the planet. Thus, they had the administrators and workers. The people of Enlil wore nose rings in their right nostril, and the people of Enki wore a gold earring in their right ear. However, the ruler of the groups wore both the nose ring and earrings in the left ear, when there was peace and happiness. The women wore them both in the nose and in both ears. This was passed down from generation to generation. The people of Enlil became the Ishmaelite tribe of today, and the people of Enki became the Israelite tribe of today. This created 2 castes, 4 groups of people that were to work the actual mines called laborers, and 3 groups that were to work the laboratory, processing all these minerals, logging, charting, and managing. The people of Enki leaned towards the Pleiadians, who are Caucasoids, where they went towards Pleiades and dwelled amongst these beings, while the people of Enlil went towards Sahu Orion. So in time, after many years of living on the planet Earth, many problems arose. A revolt was starting in the lower mines amongst the lower class of Anunnaki, and it was bothering the higher class. The Anunnaki were complaining that the work was too hard and tiresome. The Anunnaki of the mines were complaining that their jobs in the mines were too hard, so they decided amongst themselves to create you for the purpose of doing their work. They all had assembled, and Anu was hearing the complaints of the Anunnaki, which was, their work was heavy, their distress was much. And Enki decided that creating a being intelligent enough to use tools and to follow orders, to take over the load. Thus the creation of Homo erectus to Homo sapien, called Lulu Amilu. The creation of the Lulu was the result of the mutiny of the Anunnaki 300,000 years ago. This is the first appearance of Homo sapiens, and is corroborated by modern science. The forming of the Lulu had taken place above the Abzu, north of the mining area. This is the location of the earliest human remains in Tanzania, Kenya, and Ethiopia, north of the gold mining areas of southern Africa. The Anunnaki jumped in and sped up your evolutionary process, creating you sooner than you would have evolved on your own, by way of genetic engineering and embryo implant techniques. This graftation took 600 years. To get to the perfect being, 400 years for the breeding of 4 generations as in all cloning and genetic splicing or grafting. That's 10 people per 100 years and comes out to 40 people over a period of 400 years. 100 years before the 400 for the preparation. This is the collecting of choice species for breeding, or what is now called abducting. The Anunnaki did not create humans from nothing, the being was already there, on Gaia, Earth, going through a feat of an evolutionary cycle. You were Homo erectus at this point and all that was needed to upgrade you to the required level of ability was intelligence, to bind upon you the image of the Anunnaki themselves. The actual intergenetic makeup of the Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki assembled and resolved to proceed with the project without the permission of Anu the ruler. This is talking about the initial genetic experiment with Homo erectus wherein Lil sat in representation of Anu and Enki did not feel the necessity to inform him of his plan, for Enki wanted to breed of his mother, seed, the Dragos, and knew that Anu would not approve. Yet, Enki lied and told 90 that he has access to all of the test tubes in the Shinti. He stole all of the test tubes and mixed the blood of both Anunnaki and Humim and Markavians, and Maldakians, and he stirred this mixture without consulting Nibiru, or getting permission from Anu. Initially the Anunnaki's plan was to only mix the Humim and the Anunnaki, however Enki came in and mixed the blood of the Pleiadians, Markavians, Maldakians, and the Aldebarans to get even. This has nothing to do with the creation and the making of the Adama, Cadmonites, for this was before Adam. The Adama project was done for the purpose of breeding out the disagreeable genes that Enki had put in. It was done to get all of the reptilian out of you and make you gods again. The plan did not work. The only succession was Adapha, called Enoch, the son of Jared and Silam. They summoned and asked 90, the birth giver, also known as Ninkursag and Ninmah, to bind upon this being the image of the Anunnaki, and the story goes as thus: in those days once heaven and earth were split apart. In those years, the years after the fates had been decreed, once the Anunnaki were bombed, and once the Deitisses were joined in wedlock, once the Deitisses had been allotted their shares of heaven and earth, after the Deitisses had been impregnated, had given birth, after the deities had been forced to eat their food from their own dining halls, the great deities labor, the young deities carry baskets, the deities dig canals, heap up their dirt Harali, the deities grind away, grumble about their life. In those days, the one with the cunning grasp, fashioner of all the deities that exist, Enki, in the deep billowing sea, into whose midst on one dares to gaze, is lolling in his bed, I'll not stir from sleep, while the deities wail and mutter. To Enki, the one who is lying in the deep, the one who will not stir from his bed, Ninmah, also called 90, the primeval mother, who had given birth to all the great deities, carried the wailing of the deities to her brother Enki, you who are lying about, you who are sleeping, you who will not stir from your sleep, the deities, my handiwork, are beating their drums. Rise up, my brother, from your bed, practice your skill perceptively. Create servants for the deities. Let them throw their baskets away. Enki, at the word of his sister, rose up from his bed. The cunning and perceptive one, the one who guides the seeker, the skilled one who fashions the form of things, turned out the seek inside you. Enki had them stand at his side, looks at them intently. After Enki, the form fashioner, had, by himself, put sense in their head, he says to his sister, Ninmah, my sister, the creature whose name you fixed, it exists. The responsibilities that were once the Anunnaki shall become the work of the Lulu or Milu. O Khnum, Masar, fashioner need the heart of the clay that is over the Obser. That is those pygmies of Zimbabwe who have evoluted from genus Homo to erectus. Those very beings who time has brought from the amoebae, from the distant star Sirius, splashed down in the waters and crawled upon the shores to start the evolutionary journey, genus Homo to Homo erectus, now ripe for the picking. You are to put 1/4 and wait for an appointed time and then a second 1/4 and wait for an appointed time. That would be a dual nature 180 degrees deity. 180 degrees Homo erectus will give us 100% Homo sapien. Homo sapien, being Homo equals human, man, sapien equals serpent, serpent man, semen or semen. This being shall do the labors for you, that your noble backs will remain ever strong. Start with 7 of yourself, females and 7 of them males. Breed until perfection is necessary. This must not be forgotten. The removal of the divine awareness. The seek inside you, will nip off this clay. That is once the seek inside you are the beings who are the children of Anzu and his host. The Pleiadians and the Aldebarans shall seek to mix their seed with this creation. For I Enki son of the great Drago Queen do swim amongst them in the deeps of the sea having 23 of their chromosomes, I am half Dragos, thus reptilian, and I'm trusted by all. O 90, you give it form. That is, once you have fashioned and shaped and breathed into it, the breath of life, then will they be seized upon by the serpent people. Nakash, Halel, the reptilian son of Shakar of Maldek shall take revenge on your creation and seek to lead them from you in loyalty to you. Let Ninema, Suziana, Ninmata, Ninbura, Ninmug, Muzargaba, Ningana, serve you as you form them. Use their genes for the genetic splicing. My sister, you decree its fate. Let Ninma force upon it the essence of the deities. Enki looked on their work with favor. Their hearts rejoiced. Enki set up a feast for his mother Id and his sister Ninma, who is also called 90. He makes Namtar, leader of the Baal over Segan Saiju, eat ye Sag as bread. He prepares a great feast for it, the ruler of them all, who is also called Anu, and for Enlil, Nunamnir, the great Yah ruler of the Enlilites Nudamud, the great Way ruler of the Enkites roasted holy baby goats. Enki says to the deities of Way, eat of the beings of earth as bread. The reptilians were told that they are no longer to eat of those beings who evoluted on earth, that these great sauruses, lizard gods and dragons were not to eat of this new creation. However, out of the Sag, growth of the Gi earth, they can eat, and from that point on carnivorous dinosaurs were made to herbivores and not eat of the flesh of this new creation. All the great deities of Way exalted Nudamud, Enki, and honored him in this great plan. O Nudamud of deep insight, who else is given your insight? O King Enki, great noble, who can do what you do. You are like a fathering father, you are the one who takes care of the Misham, the father of all the lands, Sippur, Kish, Kutha, Shuruppak, Uruk, Ishin, and Eridu, spoke Matali, Enki's pilot. Enki and Ninma, who is also 90, had a celebration, a Shabbat. They drank plenty of beer, their hearts raced. Ninma says to Enki, on the form of a man, good or bad, I will decree a fate that is good or bad, as I feel like it. When this being has been formed, fashioned into shape, having 180 degrees of us and 180 degrees of Maldakian, his path agreeable, or disagreeable will be his decision in the form of will, self-determination. All of this after the work has been done, and as the Rumardians, they would also be free to control their own destiny, and we shall appoint one Tammuz son of Dumuzi and Ishtar to be their deity, to control the strings of their environment. And he shall also be the binding force between Nunamnir and Nudamud, that is the Yah and Way. He shall be called the Yahweh. He is their Allah, and they should have no other Allahs beside him, binding no other partners with him. He is alone, for he shall be a jealous Yahweh, and he will have the power to rain down upon them. And he shall be a loving, compassionate, merciful, yet a deity not to be worshipped, but merely to be called upon for help. And in time as the tongues shall change, he shall be called by many names: Adonis, Adon, Haru, Elyon, Allah, Curious, and Christos, Christ, Jesus. He will be thought to be the deities of deities, when in fact he is merely an Elo of the Alam called Yahweh Alam, one of the Malaikat, Angelos, or heavenly host. Enki answers Ninma, the fate that comes to you, whether it is good or bad, I will counter. Ninma took the clay that covers the Abzu. The first one she made into a man who when reaching could not bend his rigid hands, which resulted in the disease called arthritis, where brittle bones comes from. Enki, seeing the first man, who when reaching could not bend his rigid hands, decreed fate for him, named him a servant of the king. The second she made into a man who could see though blind. Enki, seeing this man, decreed his fate, and gave him the art of song, named him chief of the Uzumbo lyre, dragon lyre before the king. This defect produced stigmatism in the human today. The third she made into a man with paralyzed feet. This defect produced paralyzation. Enki, seeing the man with paralyzed feet, gave him his malam, terrifying glance, radiance like a silver bowl. The fourth she made into a man who kept dripping semen. This defect produced the disease spermatoria. Enki, seeing the man who kept dripping semen, bathed him with incantation water. The fifth she made into a woman who could not give birth. This defect produced sterileness. Enki, seeing the woman who could not give birth, decreed a fate for her, built her a harem. This was the beginning of adoptions. The sixth she made into something without a phallus or a vulva on its body. This defect produced the caudal regression. Enki, seeing something without a phallus or a vulva on its body, to serve the one Enlil had called by name over the great earth, the king decreed has his fate. Thus, the beginning of eunuchs used as servants. Enki threw the brazier, and sent burner to the ground, for no reason, he was having a tantrum, he acted most deceitfully. The great way Enki says to Ninma, for every one you have formed, I have decreed their fate, have given them bread, and they shall pray and give thanks in this manner by saying, Our fathers who are in the Orion skies, holy is your names. May Malakuk come to us, let us do things in agreement with you all as you will them to be done, while on Eridu just as things are done in the Orion skies. Provide for us with your guidance each day. And forgive us for taking the things that are not ours, as we will forgive all those who took our things. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from disagreeable. For the kingdom Alin is home, and honor you are the power, and we glorify you, forever. We have true faith. Now I will make some for you, and you decree the fate of the newborn. Enki made a form with a head, eyes, a mouth, ears, and in its center, a nose. Enki says to Ninmah, the phallus made semen poured into the woman's womb had made that woman give birth in her womb, the beginning of artificial insemination. Ninmah stood by at its birth. That woman brought forth had a mouth in its center. That is, this new breed was no longer a part of the baboon monkey, but now had vocal cords and could speak like the gods. They had achieved vocal cords. The second one he made into an Ummel, its head sick, it was hydroencephalic, its brain was deteriorating, which resulted in the disease called aneurysm, and sick was its old body was in its place, which produced the disease called degeneration. Sick was its eyes, sick its neck, breath at an end, ribs shaky, lungs sick, heart sick, bowels sick. The hand that supported his head could not put bread in its mouth, its splintered spine in pain, shoulders drooping, feet shaky, it could not walk to the field. They no longer lived to be 1,000, but merely to 120, and even lesser than that. Enki says to Ninmah, for every one you formed, I decreed its fate, have given it bread. Now you decree the fate of the one eye for me, give him bread. Ninmah, when she saw Ummel, turned to him. She approaches Ummel, questions him, but he cannot speak. She brought him bread to eat. He cannot reach for it. Having stood up, he cannot sit down, cannot lie down, cannot build a house, cannot eat bread. Ninmah answered Enki, the one you made is neither alive nor dead. It cannot lift a thing. Enki answers Ninmah, for the man with the rigid hands, I decreed his fate, gave him bread. For the man who was blind, I decreed his fate, gave him bread. For the man who has paralyzed feet, I decreed his fate, gave him bread. For the man who kept dripping semen, I decreed his fate, gave him bread. For the woman who could not give birth, I decreed her fate, gave her bread. For the one without phallus or vulva, I decreed the fate, gave it bread. My sister, now you decree the fate of Ummel, give him bread? Ninmah answers, see, you did not dwell in heaven, you did not dwell on earth, you did not bring your lifted face to the land. You did not dwell on earth. Your word was not heard in the house built for me. You did not live on the earth. You betray me in the city built for me, my city attacked, my house destroyed, my son taken captive. And here I am a refugee, one who had fled the Ichor. And now I have not freed myself from your hand. Enki answers Ninmah, a word comes out of your mouth, who can alter it? Ummel, the crippled creature, take him off your lap. All of the way has surely looked with favor upon your work. He is given by me an imperfect hand, who can oppose him? Take my hand for worthless as its use, take back this hand, put your hand on its mouth. Now may my penis be acclaimed, may it become a wisdom and dower. May the Enkiman and the Ninkum exalt thee forever. Thus, Enki's phallus became a religious monument as the obelisk needle, the light towers, the minarets, the pagodas, and the church's steeple. His penis became the symbol of fertility and life. It's referred to as an erection, for he is the father of Homo erectus. The Ish, Enkum, and the Isha, Ninkum were humans that were created by the Anunnaki to worship it. Oh my sister 90, do you extol my heroic strength? Do you utter songs for me? The deities who hear them will rejoice. The Ummel, let him build my house. On the 1st, 7th, and 15th of the month, according to the Anunnaki's calendar, Enki made a purification by washing. Geshtu, an Anunnaki who had intelligence, they slaughtered in their assembly. Geshtu was sacrificed for the creation of the Humims, for he had intelligence, his blood had to be mixed with Homo erectus. 90 first washed her hands and then mixed his shiru, flesh and his blood. They heard the drumbeat forever after. A Ruach came into existence from the Anunnaki's flesh, and 90 proclaimed it as his living sign. The Ruach existed so as not to forget Geshtu. After 90 had mixed the Tayat, clay, she called up the Anunnaki, those of the Ya, Enlilites and the Way, Enkites, the great Alam. The Agigi, spat spittle upon the clay. Mami, who was also called 90 and Ninkursag, made her voice heard and spoke to the great Anunnaki. I have carried out perfectly the work that you ordered of me. You have slaughtered the Anunnaki Geshtu together with his intelligence. I have relieved you of your hard work, I have imposed your load on Humim. You have bestowed noise on Humims. The Humims have acquired a larynx, and were given the right to speak, when they shouldn't have been allowed to speak, only work. Thus, there would have been no complaints, or it would have been unorderable complaints, which could be interpreted as aggression and be used as a reason to exterminate any aggressor. Thus the Humim should be restricted from learning languages, for it's the key. I have undone the fetter and granted freedom. They were released, and given their freedom, and they wandered throughout the world and they inhabited what they call the outer field. And the Pleiadians vamped down on and used them for breeding. They listened to this speech of hers, and were freed from anxiety, and kissed her feet. We used to call you 90, but now your name shall be Mommy, mistress of all Anunnaki. The giver of Nephesh, spirit. As you can see, the process of changing you from a Homo erectus to a Homo sapien was not an easy task. That was done within a second, with just one word or statement or command, in the first process of changing your first seed before those with the gift of procreation in the image and after the likeness of the Anunnaki. There were many defects and deformities that happened, and some of these is what accounts for your defects in the world today. There was many trial and errors. Binding the essence of the deities, the Anunnaki upon mortals was a task indeed. As mentioned previously, the graftation of Homo erectus to Homo sapiens was done by genetic manipulation, which was the first procreation and in vitro fertilization, which is fertilization of a biological entity or process developed or maintained in a controlled, non-living environment, as a laboratory vessel, or in glass tubes as depicted on the seal of an ancient Sumerian cylinder, which was the second procreation, the creation of what is called Lulu Amilu, meaning primitive workers, also known as Adama. These are two different experiments, leading to the one human beings. This breeding was done in a laboratory called Shimti, meaning house where the wind of life is breathed in. To create the Adama, 4 elements were needed. First they needed the blood of 90. Thus, in your Holy Quran it says in 96:2, create man, out of a mere plot of congealed blood. The second thing needed was the Tima, that which had to be obtained from the blood was Tima, meaning personality, that which makes a person what he is and different from any other person, DNAs and RNAs. Thus in your Bible Genesis 1:26 it says, let us create man in our image after our likeness, acting like ourselves. You were to have the personality of the Anunnaki binded upon you. The third thing was the Shiru, meaning the flesh. The extract from the Shiru was referred to in dealing with non-Anunnaki. And the fourth thing being the Kisru, meaning the semen of man coming from the male's member, which means semen, the male sperm. Enki's instructions to 90 were to get the Anunnaki's blood and the Shiru, flesh of Homo erectus, and through immersions in a purifying bath, obtain their essences. Thus, these two divine extracts were to be mixed well by 90 in a purifying bath. This is where the Lulu Amilu, the mixed one, primitive word stemmed from. 90 and Enki went into the room of fate. The womb deities were assembled. Enki trotted the clay in her presence and 90 kept reading the affirmation. I am in the love of the all, and all love is in me. I am a part of the all, and the all is a part of me. I am one with the all, and the all is one with me. I can succeed as a part of the all and fail as an individual. I can be all that I wish to be in the all, as long as my wish is to stay in the all. I am never alone. The all is, I am, the all can, I can, the all does, I do. When she had finished reciting, she pinched off 14 pieces of clay and set 7 pieces on the right and 7 on the left. Between them she put down a mud brick. She used a reed and opened it up to cut the umbilical cord. She called up the womb deities, 14 in all. 7 of them created males and 7 created females. This creation gave birth to your Sumerians and your Lulu Amilu. They were the first to work in the gold mines of Rapalli. The first male Lulu were hybrids, which could not procreate. Then after the second set of reproduction, you were gifted with the ability to reproduce, and you became Homo sapiens, meaning intelligent man, which happened 250,000 years ago.